There we go. Well, during this season of nonviolence, we've been talking about this idea of peace. And today, we're talking about finding peace within. How do we do that? You know, I think what happens a lot of times for most of us that we spend a lot of time worrying about things such as the past, what happened in the past, and we bring that into the now, or the future, what's going to happen in the future, and we worry about that. We worry about the could-haves, what could I have done differently. We worry about the should-haves, what should I have done differently. And sometimes what happens is we tend to worry about what somebody said about me, and then we can really worry about what somebody said about me. You know? And so we get all wrought up in that kind of thing if we're not careful. Recently I saw a sign on a man's desk that said, I've got so many troubles that if anything else happens to me, it will be 2 weeks before I can even worry about it. You feel like that sometimes? And yet, what we've been taught through the centuries, through the Buddha, through Jesus, is that we're not supposed to worry. We're not supposed to worry. It doesn't do any good to worry. That's the way I want to say it, okay? Because we have a tendency to do it anyway. But Jesus said, you know, can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour of, a single hour to your span of life? And the answer we know today is no. As a matter of fact, what it does is shortens life. They say people who worry and worry and worry tend to leave the planet quicker than people who don't, people who are relaxed. And it doesn't mean that those same people don't go through the same trials and tribulations. The same life isn't always as kind as we'd like it to be. So it's not that one set who worries, life is just perfect, and everything happens against them. Nor is it that a person who does not worry doesn't have any of the challenges of life. It's just a matter of how we go through it and how we see it and how we allow ourselves to be a part of it. You see, Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, but strive first for the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given you as well. So what does it mean to strive for the kingdom of God? Well, the kingdom of God is within each of us. And so what we're really doing is we are looking within ourselves, as we do during meditation, to find the peace, to find that kingdom of heaven that lives within us. The kingdom of heaven and the kingdom of God are one and the same. And so as I look within myself, I can find that kingdom of God. I can find that kingdom of heaven. When I look at the outside world, what I can find is a lot of grief, a lot of turmoil, a lot of concern, and I have things I need to worry about. It's not that I don't pay attention to what's going on in the world. I just don't let it control me. That's the idea behind it. And so as Jesus said, when we do that, then what happens is that we can really, I think, move through life in a more disciplined, in a more open, in a more transforming manner. Because when we do that, we become transparent. The Christ within us guides and leads us, and other people actually feel and sense that in some way. The Buddha said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. Got some questions. If you bought the house of your dreams, would you be at peace? And if so, how long? Probably until the air conditioner goes. Okay? If you secure what you believe is the perfect job, would you experience inner peace? The first day. Maybe a little longer. But the job itself does not give you peace. You have to go into the job being peaceful. If you develop and achieve the major goals in your life, would you experience more peace? Well, the answer is yes, but it's temporary. Because many times the goals that we achieve create other obligations, if you would, or other things that we should be doing in order to maintain those goals, and sometimes that can be stressful. And so it does not give you permanent peace. This is all of the things that from the outside look at peace. So do you believe that inner peace is dependent on external circumstances? That was the Buddha was warning us about. No, it's not what's out there. It's what's in here that gives us peace. See, temporary peace of happiness can come, yes, from accomplishments, can come when something good happens in our lives or we feel is good, can come when we overcome some situation and we feel this sense of peace. But again, if it doesn't come from within, it is not long-lasting. It is more temporary in nature. And what we want to talk about is a consciousness of peace. How do I live in the consciousness of peace? There's a guy by the name of B.A.C., Dennis, who writes online. And he has this book called Overthinking. And he says one of the problems, one of the challenges that occurs for us and creates this non-peaceful sense within our beingness is that we think too much. We overthink just about everything. And he suggests that what we do is we create an awareness app, and that'll come up here just there it is, an awareness app on our phone. And he said put these questions in. Number one, how do I, and do this several times a day, how do I feel right now? Am I anxious? Am I stressed? Am I tense? Or am I moving through this situation and yet feel relaxed even though it's a tense situation? What am I thinking right now? Am I thinking that other person's giving me a hard time? Am I thinking the other person's wrong and I'm right and I've got to prove that I'm right? Am I thinking that I've got the right answer, I know the truth, and I want to convince you that you don't know the truth? That's called self-righteousness. So what am I thinking in the moment? And if I act on my emotions, and that's what he's really looking at in this app, what are my emotions right now? If I act on my emotions, will I destroy or will I create? That's a great question. If I react or respond to my emotions, am I destroying or am I creating? Am I empowering or am I disempowering another individual? If I'm building them up or putting them down. And that tells us where we are in this idea of true peace. You know, the second thing is that, I don't even overthink, but we have to recognize and claim our power to be at peace. We have the power to be at peace. It's up to us. Take some work. It can be a challenge. There's a story after Jesus did the Sermon on the Mount that he was pretty worn out, and he went into the side of the mountain and he meditated a while, and then he went out and got on a boat with the disciples. And they went out on the Sea of Galilee. And while they were out there, a storm came up. Jesus was sleeping soundly. He was at peace. But the storm came up, and the disciples started to really worry. And instead of looking within themselves, they looked outside of themselves and they said, Jesus, wake up. We're going to drown. And Jesus said, peace, be still. And then he looked at the disciples and said, where is your faith? Where are you? You could have done the same thing that I did by calming the seas by saying, peace, be still, and meaning it within yourself. Now, I don't know if the story happened like that, but it's symbolic, I think, of some things that are really important. And that symbolism, and Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, really talked about this beautifully. He says that the symbolism means that each and every one of us has work to do. That if we have sick thoughts, or if we have illness, or if we have error consciousness, as he called it, where we aren't really looking at life properly and understanding what's happening to us. He says that what happens is that we can step into that spiritual being that we are, and that we can literally be comfortable and sleep in the midst of a storm. That there is this opportunity not to let fear overcome us. I'm drowning, I'm drowning, I'm drowning. But instead to know that it's not fear but love that creates the peace within us. I think that's what the story is all about. The idea that when we're in the storms of life, when we're in those situations where we think we're drowning, that we can step up, change our mind about what we're thinking about, and understand that we can be in a consciousness of peace. And when we use that process of going within and finding that peace, it gives us an opportunity to overcome whatever obstacle or opportunity, sometimes we call it, that comes before us. When I'm at peace, I can make better decisions. When I'm at peace, I can step into life with more power. When I'm at peace, I can see you for who you are, the love you are. But if I am all irritated and worrying and concerned about what you're doing, I see the stuff around you. I don't see you. And so this idea of peace is very important because it gives us the ability to have 20/20 vision, I believe. That's to see people as they are. John Kennedy said, peace is a daily, a weekly, a monthly process, gradually changing opinions, slowly eroding old barriers, quietly building new structures. What a wonderful idea. Then we're at peace, we can do those things. Doesn't happen overnight, no. But we can build new structures. And what that says to me is you and I can build a new structure the way we are and the way we think within ourselves. Then there are some statements I'd like to share with you about, I think of them as action statements. And these are by people who have lived during our lifetime. Nelson Mandela said, if you want to make peace with your enemy, you have to work with your enemy. Then he becomes your partner. 70 years ago, I went on the UWM, Unity Worldwide Ministries Board of Directors. And when I went on, it was really kind of interesting. Somebody came up to me and said, there's a guy on the board of directors. And it was a guy. He's very hard to get along with. And he'll get in your face. I said, okay. So what happens? I go on the board. I'm kind of looking around and say, which one of these guys is it? I knew it wasn't a woman. Okay? And there were 2 or 3 men. I'm going, which one is it? And it didn't take long for me to figure out. But what I decided was I wouldn't listen to the fear that was registered in me, that I would just listen to the person to see what they were saying and where they were coming from. And this person became one of my best friends. We don't agree on a lot of things, still to this day. We have our differences of opinion. We have conflicts in our ways we see things. But he and I sit and talk. If something happens in the board meeting, he's no longer on the board. If something would happen in the board meeting, I would go over and we would have, or he'd come to me and we'd have lunch together and talk it through where we disagreed. And I would understand where he was coming from and he would hopefully understand where I was coming from. And eventually we became partners on the board. Because we could share different opinions, but at the same time, there was no conflict. There was peace between us. So I never allowed him, and he never saw me as an enemy. We were blessed that way. The other thing I would share with you is this, and it's kind of long, but this quote by the Dalai Lama, peace does not mean an absence of conflicts. That's the first mistake most people think. Differences will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, education, and knowledge, and through humane ways. What he's really saying in his way is that what we behold in one another is the divine. If we behold the divine in each person, we can agree and disagree through the power of love. We can have dialogues where we would not see eye to eye and still love each other. We can grow through that dialogue because we are hearing a different way that somebody else sees something or experiences something. When I sit with somebody who's experienced something, I don't even understand what it's like. What happens is if I really listen, I start to understand what they went through. I start to feel what they went through. And then I can understand them and love them and support them more fully. And that's what peace can do for us as we understand this idea that there are differences and there will be conflicts at times. One of the things I really love about this ministry, the people here, is we have our differences sometimes, but we mostly do it through love. And if we don't, we learn to. And so we agree and disagree in love. Your board of trustees do that beautifully. This is not a board that says yes to everything I say, certainly. This is not a board that says yes to the way things ought to be. It's a board that says let's discuss it and let's agree and disagree until we come to an agreement. They're modeling who we are and what we are. And I appreciate that. I love that in what they're doing. It makes a difference in this ministry, and it makes a difference actually in your life, whether you know it or not. Then, Bishop Desmond Tutu. Do your little bits. Sometimes we think we've got to do a big deal. We've got to, make a big splash in the papers to make anything change. He said, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Isn't that what we're all about? And to overwhelm the world, we have to be at peace. We have to have peace within, or otherwise the world will overwhelm us. And so, as we look at this and think about these things, number one is that if you find yourself overthinking, turn on your app and calm yourself down and say, where am I right now? And if I'm not where I want to be, then take a moment, 30 seconds, to just go into the silence, to meditate, to calm yourself down. You can do that when you're meeting with somebody even. They can be talking and you can be calming yourself down. I wouldn't suggest you close your eyes and not look at them, but you can calm yourself down. Because when we're at peace, you see, our intent is to be peaceful even if we're in conflict. Number two, recognize and claim your power to be at peace. Peace be still in me. Peace be still in me. And then be willing to take peaceful action. Action that actually creates even more peace in the world. More peace between individuals. Better and stronger relationships. Remember that you can turn what appears to be an enemy into a partner. You can live peace in such a way that when conflicts come up, as the Dalai Lama says, you step into it through dialogue and love. And remember, every little thing you do builds up. And don't give up on the idea that the world cannot be changed. The world is changing. The world has changed. The world is better today, I believe, than it was yesterday, than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. No matter what you see or hear, it's better because more people want to live in peace than ever before. More people have an idea of how they want to show up than ever before. And as we step into action, we can help the world be at peace by being at peace within ourselves, but also taking that peace and put it into action in the world where we show up each and every day. Do it with your family. Do it in your community. Do it here at Unity. Be at peace. Find that peace within yourself. Thank you. And now we have this opportunity for prayer this morning. Is there any prayer requests this morning? Any prayer requests? I've got one. Vicki is going to be operated on Thanksgiving. I missed that one. On Valentine's Day.